Hey everybody, welcome to How the Sausage is Made with Chris Cosentino, where I talk with chefs, restaurateurs, athletes, philanthropists, and pretty much anybody that inspires me. We look below the surface, behind the curtain, and dig deep into how these people got to where they are today. Wins, losses, and everything in between. All right, everybody. Today we have Chef Adam Sobel. Adam and I have known each other for many a year. We have crossed paths all over, mostly in SF and around different events, I would say, right? We've cooked dinners together. We've had goof off time at Sobe. We cooked a bunch of times down at Levi Stadium together.
And it's always been super enjoyable. And I've always been a huge fan of yours, Chef.
Thank you.
In
I appreciate
fact,
that.
in preparation of this, I was running through some old menus and I came across in a menu from Encanto from probably was it mid
It's a long time ago.
2000s, mid
Wow.
2009 maybe?
Possibly,
Could
yeah.
that-
Sounds about right.
Yeah, man, your the pork skin that you used to do and with the braised pork skin and your tripe and was it lamb heart tartare, I believe,
All the
was
funny meats, yeah. Those were the days.
very inspiring. You've been an
Oh,
inspiration to me for a very long time.
thank you. I really appreciate that, Adam.
So I'm honored and excited
Come on
about
now.
what we're gonna chat about, you know?
It's interesting. I think we've all worked so hard to get where we are, right? We've all just put our heads down and just grinded. And I think you and I come from a time where it was very different, where we were working and just jumping to work for free for everybody we could to get these experiences. And times have changed, and it's very different work style now comparative to what, we had. And not that it's worse or better or bad, it's just different. And I think it's really it's interesting to hear people's direction on how they got to where they are today, right? So when you were a kid, like what was it that said, I want to cook? Like, were you always wanting to do this, or is it something that just happened gradually?
Well, that's this is a question that I get asked pretty often, and it's an amazing story. I had a natural attraction to the kitchen probably from 4 years old. So, I grew up on Long Island. My dad's heritage were Russian Jewish and Italian Catholic. My mom, half Sicilian, half Napolitano, and my nana was like the best cook. To this day, she's top 5 greatest cooks I've ever been around. And on Saturdays, I would sleep at her house on Saturday night. And then Sunday mornings, I would help roll gnocchi, clean artichokes, make meatballs. This is, from 4 or 5 years old till when it wasn't cool to sleep at Nana's house anymore, So I just loved it. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like the science, the aromas, making delicious, the love that my grandmother would put into the food would then translate to the table. And like having dinner at 2 o'clock on Sunday, that was just every single Sunday of my life as a child. So my mom recognized that there was some kind of magnetism to the kitchen. I was thinking I was thinking all about you and the research, and I was researching everything you've got going on. I was thinking Magneto with your Marvel stuff. But anyway, it started off that way, and then I was an awful student in high school. I played baseball and soccer, and mostly soccer was my focus. And then my mom recognized that it was probably going to be difficult for me to get through high school and get into college based on academics, because I just wasn't built for regular school,
Sounds like a lot of us.
Yeah. And whether it was I never was diagnosed with attention deficit or dyslexia or anything, but I had a really hard time with academics and being stuck in a class. It just wasn't for me. I was great at entertaining, making people laugh, being a great teammate when it came to sports, but, like, school was a problem. So my mom, floated the idea of enrolling, in BOCES or VOTEC for culinary arts, and I was like, that was kinda like where the kids that, were labeled as derelicts or dead end kids would go, like, and, you'd be a cast off, and, like, you know, I was a little nervous about that, but at the same time, I was like, "Fuck it, man," like, I I like to cook. I think I can get behind this, and this could be interesting. So literally went to BOCES for culinary arts, and the first day I stepped foot in that kitchen/classroom, my life changed forever. It was, I felt like I had a purpose and I was put on earth to be a chef, and the switch flipped, and my I went from being a problem child to feeling like I wasn't worthless. And I mean, it's kind of a heavy thing to say, but like you're 15, 16 years old, my parents had reason to not believe in me because I was a pain in the ass, and then finding the kitchen and having mentorship really set me on a path that I've never looked back. It really, was incredible.
It's interesting, right? When you think about when you're a kid and you're in high school, there's an expectation of what or how we're supposed to behave in class, how we're supposed to go through the day. And if you don't fit those parameters, you're cast aside, at least when we were kids, right? And now that's changed. Now they have programs and they're set up for dyslexia and ADHD. They're set up for all these things. Where back then we were kind of, it's like, you're going to go to shop class, you're going to VOTEC, you're going, and it's like, it was really interesting. It's such a shift in the world and how it is. And but thank goodness for us that those were the options because it made it a lot easier for us
Come on.
to really grab onto something, right? It was like we were hands-on. We went from being focused on this book to, okay, now you're in home ec class, and then it translates from home ec to, the next level. And you're just like, wow, this is cool. I can feed myself. I don't have to sit through this class all day.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing, you get to split your day in half, right? But I
Yeah.
forgot about that, Chris, like the home ec stuff. I enjoyed that also. I mean, that was early. I think you start taking home ec in like 7th grade.
Yeah.
But dude, I was like, I dig this. And it was one of the few classes I looked forward to, like
Well, I
but
don't even think they do home ec anymore.
huh.
I don't think they
That's
have
a
home ec.
shame.
It is because, like, it was basics, right? You got to learn to sew, you made cookies, they taught you how to roast a chicken and make soup is what they taught me when I was there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those I think are really important. Everybody needs to learn how to sew, right? You get a hole, you sew a button on, like, why not? But it's such an interesting time when you're young like that to have something reshape your mindset from like, okay, I'm failing here, but I'm like excelling here is such a powerful feeling.
Totally, man. And that's so did you do Votech also? Did you go to BOCES?
No, they didn't have Votech where I was.
Okay.
I went and started working at IHOP as a dishwasher, and that kind of gravitated. And when I graduated from high school, I kind of had three choices:
Yeah.
military, of a tech style school, right, which was like, and the other one was, go to jail for doing something stupid. So I ended up in culinary school. Military was not for me. Could you see me in military? No.
Ah, you're a bit of you're a rebel rouser, bro.
I would have gotten in a lot of trouble. So you're in the VOTEC program, and how did that move from there? Did you like straight into culinary school? Were you working at restaurants?
Uh, I had a mentor that, Chef John Murphy, who, he recently passed away, was very he was a guardian angel, not just a mentor, he was like a father figure, but, Chef Murph connected me with the ACF. He got me involved with the American Culinary Federation at a young age, started doing competition. He introduced me to the circle of the best chefs on Long Island, And that's kind of where I went from, oh, my first job was at McDonald's when I was 14. I was too young to work the fryer. I was only allowed to work the cash register, but I even enjoyed McDonald's. I was like, this is awesome. But Murph got me introduced and connected with the best chefs. And I went started working at the Weeping Willow, which was considered one of the finest restaurants on Long Island. And then every restaurant that I went to after, it was always a step up, always pushed it further. Went from the Weeping Willow to the Piping Rock Club, worked for a master chef named John Johnstone, who coincidentally, his best friend was Peter Timmons, another CMC, who mentored Michael Voltaggio, right?
So funny.
So our mentors, John and Peter, were besties. I was John's commis. Michael was Peter's commis. We battled at the New York Restaurant Show at the Jacob Javits Center
That's funny.
when I was like 16 and he was 17.
That's
So,
hysterical.
and then that's how the evolution and constantly striving to push it and move on to work for, I don't want to say more innovative chefs, but like, with Johnstone, he took the job at Tavern on the Green. Gerald Chin and I followed him. We were chef de parties at the busiest restaurant in America at like 17 years old. And working in the city, I'd cut high school. I wouldn't go to my afternoon classes so I could go work in the city. It was kind of crazy, man. And but that's kind of how it all that's how it all happened. But I never took a job ever for the money. It was always about learning and who I could be working with and how, the obsession over just learning and developing and being a badass on the line. That was like, as a kid, you're working with men in New York City, and you just like, it was, really magical looking back on it 31 years later, which is wild. That never stopped. It was like, okay, so you're constantly striving to find a great restaurant to learn from and chefs to mentor you and building relationships. And that's been my, the formula to how I've gotten to where I am. It's working hard, being in the right place at the right time. That matters, a little bit of luck. And then having great mentors, that's been my formula for how I've gotten to where I am today. And there's a lot more, obviously. I feel like,
Well, there's like discipline
yeah,
involved. Like, look, like it's technique, discipline, consistency, drive. And you keep looking for those at every location, right? And that's part of the draw to these restaurants. And like you said, it's not about the money. Yes, it is in some way. You have to make some form of money to survive, but there's a point in which it's like the education outweighs the income, right?
absolutely. Oh yeah.
And I think there's a balance to be had, right? You have to have enough to make it, but at the same time, the education level is there. And it's like, it's also what you make out of the opportunities as well. You make the most out of every opportunity you have. And I think, you have always pushed. And I think it's really, so like, you're working in New York. Where are these places that you're going, and who are you jumping to? Because I think that's, and the times that you spend at places, I think, are really important. There are folks sometimes who say jump every year. And then there are
Uh-huh.
folks now who are jumping every 6 months for $1 here and $1 there. And it's, so I mean, it's interesting to hear all these different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think staying power gives you more credibility. It gives you more education. It gives you more opportunity. Whereas others say it's the opposite.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of the biggest regrets I have is when you're young and you're dumb, or you're just like, you have this anxiety of like, I've got to continue to push. You forget that the consistency piece is really important, especially when you might be immature and impatient, which I was.
We all were. Come on.
We
We
all,
all were.
okay.
We all were, because we all
Yeah.
we saw what was ahead and we thought,
Yeah.
I want that job. I want to be that guy. I want to be faster than them or better. And in doing so, you hindered yourself in that way. At least
Yeah.
I think I did to myself.
I I agree, and that's something like when you look at Japanese culture and how young Japanese chefs come up and they're disciplined and focused. And I don't necessarily need you I think you need to make rice for 5 years before you can evolve on to something else, but, I respect that. But, my thing was, I spent a couple of years with John Johnstone. He ends up getting fired at Tavern on the Green. Him and, Warner Leroy, who owned Russian Tea Room and Tavern, had a blowout, and, like, that place was fucking crazy, dude. Like, we had a melee one night in the middle of service with Ron Zoni, the dishwasher, attacked me, stuck a hot saute pan into my arm and seared my forearm, and the full on WWF fucking Royal Rumble in the kitchen. Like, this is crazy shit. So, like, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this shit, you know? So, I'll get into that story another time, but John Stone ends up leaving, and then me and G-Man are like, what are we gonna do? He gives us a ring. He's like, hey, come meet me at the Riga Royal. It was the Halcyon, was the name of the restaurant in the Riga Royal. Johnstone was going to be the chef there. That later went on. Gordon Ramsay ended up taking that over shortly after. Well, not shortly, maybe a couple years later. But we go meet Johnstone for a meeting because we're going to leave Tavern to follow him to the Halcyon. The dude doesn't show up for the meeting. Like, we're there, we're kids, like, we came into the city, we have no money. We go to meet John for this new gig, and he wasn't there. Turns out he ended up quitting the new position he just took with Riga Royal. He ended up quitting and never mentioned to us that our interview was canceled. So Gerald and I are like roaming around New York City, like, what the fuck are we going to do? We got to find a job. So we go to Cafe Balud, just opened. What? Yeah, it was up on 77th, the Surrey Hotel, I believe.
Yeah.
And like, we do a stage. Andrew Carmelini was the chef. Jean-Francois was in the kitchen there getting ready. He was preparing to move to DB Bistro. And we do a stage there, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then we just bounce around New York City until we find our new restaurant home. Ended up taking a job with Bill Telepan at Judson Grill, which was
Wow.
really cool, and like a legendary kitchen staff there. And like, we loved it, man. I loved working for Bill. And what happened there? Let's see. Oh, we got a great story. So we shared a basement with Le Bernardin, right? So like, we were tight with the Le Bernardin crew, and like, the food was very different, obviously, very American, market driven with Judson, and then Le Bernardin's 4-star, you know, I think at the time was probably the best restaurant in New York City, still might be. Um, but like, the kitchen pranks, like in the middle of service, um, they send G-Man over to ask Chef Repair for what the fuck was it? Like the bacon stretcher or something like that? Or like, it was something stupid. And like, Gerald goes over to ask Repair for like um the pea shucker or something like that, and he fucking get the fuck out of my kitchen, you stupid piece of shit, fucking throws him out. But anyway, those days of like New York City and like the camaraderie and the fun, it was
Oh, the
unbelievable.
shenanigans. Oh, we
Oh
used to do
my,
the same thing here. When I was at Rubicon, we used to send people over to Aqua to see Wetzel or to see Mark, and we would send him over for cans of steam, left-handed spatulas, oven stretchers, and then they'd send them to the other restaurant, and they'd go like on a 20-minute walk and come back, and they said, well, they sent it back last week, and we were just like, we were not nice. I mean, we were all
yeah,
jackasses, you know? I mean, it was fun, but then like the kid would end up being really bitter. And then you'd wonder
look,
why the
man,
mise en place was never ready, right? Because you're setting him
right.
on walkabouts.
Oh, so funny. But anyway, the time in New York City was just so spectacular, priceless. And then, my dad was really adamant about me having a college experience, and I never thought I'd have the ability to go to school because I was, I never took SATs, never, but, ended up going to the CIA, and then that kind of, like that changed my life also. I was well prepared. I had kind of a head start going to school after having years of valuable, high-end restaurant experience. Going to the CIA was just like, boom, you hit the ground running. But that's where relationships were really developed. That's where I met Brian Ogden, son of Bradley Ogden. David Varley was in my class,
Wow.
handful of others, and, like, boom, that was, like, what I meant by, like, timing and a little bit of luck. That our group, to this day, we're all still very close, but that's kinda how I got connected to Michael Mina. That's how I ended up getting to San Francisco at some point. That's how I ended up working for Charlie Trotter. It was all just like these relationships and meeting the right people at the right time. The magic and the relationships developed that forged and laid the groundwork for the rest of my life. So it's pretty rad.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like you think about those people and we say this a lot in the business. It's like it's a very small world, right? You burn a bridge, you burn many bridges, right? And word travels.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important that
Sure
cuz
does, brother.
it just it you torch one bridge, you torch about 1,000. And that's what's really amazing though is because it's a tight-knit bond in this business, and it's a hard business that we're in, but at the same time, the education and the more you share, the more you grow, right? So as cutthroat as it can just be so open and vast knowledge just shared consistently. What was that like going to school and then having all this experience prior? Because there's a lot of people there that had very minimal experience. You go in, you have this experience. Was it an elevated program where you just went through it really quickly, or was it the full program that you went through?
I did the 2 years. So I went in there, and this is another thing, just being a child, because let's see, I was 18 when I went to the CIA. I had an arrogance about me. That's another thing. It's embarrassing when you look back, but um, you think you're hot shit. You're like, oh, I could tornado a potato behind my back, and meanwhile, there are people in the class that can barely hold a knife. So like, you're mixed in with people but that doesn't mean that they didn't have the potential to be excellent or be great chefs down the road. They were just at a different level. But, there were times where I was a dick, and that never that never helps you move forward, right? So when I look back at that time, I was able to focus on like, great. I had the foundation laid, which allowed me to focus on, like, the wine training and the wine classes and service and other things like that. But the arrogance is something that I regret, and probably stifled relationships as opposed to uh building more, which, whatever, kids do dumb things. But that time at the CIA, um it helped me, to answer the question better, more
It's all
precisely,
good.
it helped me really focus on the other areas that I didn't know anything about. L you know, the wine exploration piece. Steve Colpan, who was like, I think he was a master sommelier, and I forgot the other, wine instructors, but I was really enthralled by that. Like, my eyes just really popped out of my head. I was really into the wine studies. And then, the extern piece of it, being able to travel anywhere in America or anywhere in the world for that matter to go do an externship, that was unbelievable. And I used that opportunity to go work for Gunter Seeger, which that opened up a whole nother, you know,
Wow.
uh,
Were you
um,
working with him in Atlanta?
yeah, yeah. I wrote him a letter. I had a handful. I don't remember the other restaurants that I was applying to, but I wrote Seeger a letter, and he responded. I was like, holy shit, no one else had responded. And I end up my dad and I end up going down to Atlanta I went for an in-person interview with Seeger. This is like, you know, drive back down to Long Island, get up, meet my dad, or went to the airport, go to Atlanta, meet in person, do a stage. I get the gig. Boom. And then working at Seeger's, and this is kind of crazy. To this day, I still use those techniques, those flavor combinations. That guy, that was, in my opinion, the best restaurant in America was Seeger's in late 90s, early 2000s.
He was so talented. He still is genius. Like, but just like I remember everything, reading about him consistently. Just always, you're just like, what is he doing next? Like, he pushed hard,
Oh man, with
hard.
style too.
Oh,
Hard. I mean, geez. There was such elegance and refinement, but, like, it was never, like, over the top. There was never anything on the plate that didn't make sense. And you know, I try to cook that way to this day. That experience really stood with me and was a cornerstone to how I cook and think about food. But all that came from the CIA and, like, this evolution, being in the right place at the right time, pushing hard, having guts to take risks. Like, dude, I had no fucking money. I was poor, I don't co my family, very, very blue collar, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but, like, we figured it out, took risks, and traveled all over the world to cook, and you know, it's one of the coolest things you could ever dream for.
you know what I loved about Gunter was that he respected each ingredient beyond what most people had at that time, and he never gilded the lily, never once. Right? That's to
True.
me what was super cool about him. It was like so elegant. Like if it was about a turnip, it was about a turnip and a piece of duck, and the sauce was fucking perfect. Right? That was it. No gilding the lily, no extra bullshit, nothing. It was like all technique driven the whole way. That skin was fucking crispy. The duck was cooked perfectly. The turnips were awesome. And the sauce blew your mind. Like everything about that techniques was unlike what anybody was doing at that time because everybody was trying to gild the lily to make the net. And that's the old school style of cooking that I love.
Yeah, and his, commitment to procuring the best ingredients on
Oof.
earth, that was another one. It was just like, dude, we used to cook sweet potatoes in pecan oil. Like, this is 1999, 2000, Chris.
They were feeding them in pecan oil.
Yeah, and it was like, and we
That's
did it
fucking rad.
with like a braised veal cheek and then a sweetbread tornado and like the most perfect veal. Like my sauce technique, I learned but from two people. Well, Seeger and then Matthias Mergis at Trotters really taught me how to make sauce. And like I have a hybrid of their techniques. I've kind of have had a baby, and that's how kind of what I teach now. But like that dish though, for example, was like the tasting of a four-story farms veal, and it was the veal cheek, the tornado of sweetbread, and sweet potato and pecan.
Thank
I
you.
to this day, I don't know if I've ever had a better veal dish in my life.
Wow. That sounds like
It was just bonkers.
he wow, and Matthias too. Talk about another technician. Holy cow. So good. So good. So you finish your internship with Seeger.
Yeah.
Where you have to go back to school, you have to finish. What happens after that? Where do you go after school? As a chef, I'm always asked the same question. What's your secret to making a restaurant quality dish at home? It's not just the ingredients, it's how you bring them to life, and it starts with the right tools. Heston's Probon professional clad cookware collection will give you control, consistency, and confidence. It's cookware that makes you want to cook more. Check it out at hestonculinary.com and use my promo code COOKWITHCHRIS for 10% off your first order.
So after school, I was planning on going back to Atlanta, and the irony, or whatever you want to call it, my roommates My best friend, Gerald Chin, who he and I went to high school together and have cooked together for 30 years. And we've worked together on and off for almost that whole time. And another gentleman, Lucas Remans, we were going to move. Actually, you probably met Lucas. Lucas was in San Francisco with me in a group for a while. We were going to move back to Atlanta after school to work at Seegers, and we were all going to the kitchen. 2 weeks before we're getting ready to move to Atlanta, Seeger calls. He goes, Adam, there's only room in the kitchen for two of you. One of your friends has to work in the front of the house. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll present it. I know G-Man doesn't want to work in the front of the house. So I'm like, Lucas, what do you think? Would you want to you know, would you want to work in the front for a little while and just get an experience with literally one of the best restaurants in the world? And he's like, no, I have no interest in that. Meanwhile, like 8 years later, this asshole becomes a like he's a maitre d and he's a GM. So we ended up not going to Atlanta because the three of us couldn't do it together. So I kind of burned, that pissed him off. And our relationship, I don't want to say it was severed. It was never really anything. We were never that close. He's a very, we're very different people. I'm warm and bubbly, and he was just, very German. Uh, but after that, our relationship was affected because we had a commitment to go back there. And then because the three of us couldn't be in the kitchen, it was like, it broke the deal. So that's something I regret. But after that, after school, I ended up moving out to the South Bay and opened a restaurant for Bradley Ogden called Parcel 104, with Varley and I, down in Santa Clara at the Marriott. Dude, this was unbelievable. So I'd been to California. I spent like the summer in LA in 1997, and then we had taken first trip to San Francisco with Brian and stayed at his house with his mom and dad in San Rafael. And like, I was blown away with the Bay Area. So I was like, all right, cool. Down to move to California after school. But living in the South Bay, coming from New York, I had never experienced what Vietnamese. I didn't know what a banh mi was. I didn't know what real dim sum was. I never had a real fucking taco. Growing up in New York, like in the 90s, even like up until recently, maybe like the last 12 years, you didn't have
No, you didn't.
real Mexican food in New York
No.
City. Okay. It didn't exist. Maybe 15 years. So anyway, when we get to we're living in Milpitas, me and Varley are the only two white guys in the whole town, and it is awesome. Like, it was very Vietnamese and very, Latino and an Asian. And it was like, oh my God, Ranch 99. We would go to before going to work, we would go to Ranch 99 and pick ingredients up there and then bring it to the restaurant and work on specials. I fucking loved it. Changed my life.
It's so funny to think we take these foods for granted now.
Yeah.
But the first time we ever had them, it opened our eyes, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was living in DC. We had where I grew up in Rhode Island, we had really poor versions of Latin cuisine. We had Portuguese, which is amazing, but that's not Latin cuisine, right? So every part of the country had different cuisines that made it so regional, right? So a regional influenced. The first time, I remember the first time I had pho, it was just like an eye opener. I was like, holy shit, like, this is amazing, right? Like the
Yeah,
first
man.
real tacos, you're like, damn, dude. When we first, the first time when Tatiana and I moved to San Francisco, the first meal we had was at Taqueria Cancun.
What year was that?
Oof, 96.
That's
We
awesome,
moved,
man.
we stayed on Cap. We stayed at a friend's place in Cap Street, which was gnarly. And literally, we drove in, parked the car. She's like, okay, we're going for burritos, and had lengua burritos at friggin' Taqueria Cancun.
And
Back
your
when they were
life
like,
was changed.
life was changed. Like, it's so different, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing how much diversification has come just in our lifetime, right? As cooks and chefs, how much we've seen change. Product
Mhm.
availability, like, you go to a grocery store now and all these ingredients that were not even close to being available are now the norm,
Yeah.
right?
So, like, oh my goodness, dude, like, going to Ranch 99 and finding bitter melon, I did like bitter melon, oh my, or buying spot prawns from the live tanks at Ranch
Yeah,
90, like, dude, it
yeah.
was crazy abalone, I mean, I remember there's a handful of places that just will always, I'll never forget, it had such an impact. Remember the Mayflower restaurant, which was down south? It was like, I think at one point, Gourmet Magazine, when it was still around, had like the top 25 best Chinese or Asian restaurants in America. It was an amazing issue. And I think 10 of the 25 are all in the South Bay. And like we used that as our guide. We hit all these restaurants. I had never had I had never had real dim sum before, you know? So, dude, so anyway, that happened after school. I was introduced to, you know, um, real ethnic cuisine that changed my life and also was really inspiring. And then we did some great stuff at Parcel 104. We got a great review from Michael Bauer, and then it really forged my relationship with Bradley. Coincidentally, while I'm working for Bradley, his son Brian is trying to get me to quit working for his dad to move to Chicago to go to Charlie Trotter's. So,
Talk about conflicting interests there.
well, that was the thing. You know, I had never ever thought in my life I'd be able to have the opportunity. I just never dreamed I was worthy of working at a place like Charlie Trotter's. Now, this I don't know, guess this is like 2001, 2000. I remember, I had all the Trotter's books, Charlie, vegetables and the meat book and the fish. And I never like in my wildest dreams thought I'd have an opportunity to work there. And then Brian calls me. He's like, "Look, there's a spot for you. You gotta come out." I'm like, "What do I do? Just quit?" He's like, "Quit immediately. You can come live with me. You sleep, sleep on the couch here." So I put my notice in with Bradley, and he was understanding. He knew that it was a really great opportunity, and that was it. I moved to Chicago from Milpitas, and then that was a whole nother chapter of just magic that unfolded. The relationships that were built there in that kitchen. We had Omar Cantu, Curtis Duffy, Giuseppe Tentori, Matthias, um, Sven Mead, Graham Elliott, I mean, like, dude, it was like murderer's row of like some of the Beverly Kim was in that kitchen. Jeff Morrow, dude, it was wild. And then I'm at Trotters, it was like, so this was really right out of school, right? It was just like this magic was happening. And the time there is probably the most precious of my career because I learned it wasn't just about the food. It was like really being understanding what hospitality is and taking care of guests and exceeding expectations and like, Charlie and being charitable. That was another thing. Every week we'd have kids come in from a local school and spend time in the kitchen with us, and then we would cook for them. So like the education, the charity work, the product sourcing, and incredible place where magic happened daily and sourcing of the best ingredients in the world. And then paying respect to like those who paved the way for us. Like the 15th anniversary dinner, he honored Freddie Giardet and flew out Freddie's entire team from Switzerland and France to come and celebrate the 15-year anniversary of Charlie Trotters in honor of Freddie Giardet. And like, dude, wild shit. It was just unbelievable.
I
So
mean, that kitchen produced so much talent. So many people went through there, and the books were so inspiring for so many. He just he pushed the envelope.
in
He
every way
really,
possible,
in every way possible. Not only with food, I mean, he pushed you guys to the extreme. I mean, let's just
to
be
the extreme.
honest. To like
My goodness.
to the breaking points. Like I've heard I mean, I've talked to so many people that have gone through that kitchen, on this podcast, and everybody talks about being pushed to their breaking points and, like, coming back from that, and it's like he's like, "It's like Phoenix rising from the ashes, you get broken and then you come back," and um, it created a lot of brilliance.
A lot of brilliance. And look, looking back on it, I was prepared to handle that environment because I was brought up, you know, I could take a licking, but there was mental warfare that was being
I've heard.
battled. And, like, look, um, it, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And the camaraderie that was built and the brotherhood and brethren that was built there. Look, man, no matter what, I Giuseppe Tentori was my sous chef, right? He and I have a bond for life because of the
Yeah.
time we spent there together. And it's amazing what happens when you're polishing copper at 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday night, and how that connects you forever. It was remarkable, brother. And then that experience kind of led that opened the door to get me to Las Vegas. And Charlie was going to open Trotters in London. There was a deal with Paul Allen on the table, and we were going to London, Brian and I and a handful of others. And then something happened. I don't really know the details, but like the deal got kiboshed at like the last minute, and we were like, "All right, what are we going to do? We're not moving to London." And Bradley coincidentally calls, and he's like, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing some consulting for my new restaurant we're going to open at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas?"
I
We're like,
remember when that opened.
"Yeah," we're like, "Oh, we would love to. Can we come out and see the project?" And like 22 years old, I had never been to Vegas. They fly us out and give us comp cards, and we get our own suites, and we're like, "Holy shit, this is amazing." And like we see what's being built in Vegas and what's happening. And we recognized we had an opportunity to make a big impact, because look, the food and beverage program at Bellagio was groundbreaking and incredible. Louis Paladin, I think he had just passed away.
Napa
So
restaurant in the Rio.
Napa, yeah. So like there
Yep.
was like room for to do something groundbreaking. And Brian and I recognized that. We convinced Bradley to hire us as the co-chef de cuisines, and we moved to Las Vegas. And dude, the hotel, Caesar's Palace, had 14 purveyors that covered everything for the entire hotel. We had 65 purveyors alone just for our restaurant, for product, just for us. We fucked up their whole world. Like they're like, these kids are out of their minds. So long story short, there we end up winning a James Beard Award for best new restaurant in America. And we changed food and beverage in Las Vegas. And that was all relationship. And then, pushing hard, working hard, being in the right place at the right time. Matthias said something to me that stuck with me, and I think about it. He's like, "You're leaving too soon, leaving Trotters too soon." And he was right. I was leaving too soon. This goes back to what we talked about earlier about jumping around. I really regretted that. But at the same time, if I didn't make that jump and I didn't move to Vegas and do that restaurant, who knows? You
I
know?
think there's a lot of that, right? Like, there are questions. We all have those questions. Should I, could, what, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? But the time's gone. It's past. We can't change it at this point, right? And you made those decisions, and it worked out. I mean, if it hadn't worked out, you would have kicked yourself. But it's still, you learn. No matter what, you learn from everything, right? Wherever you work, you learn what to do and what not to do at the same time, right? And I think that's just as important to understand. And the measure of our success is how we deal with problems, not how we make them. So I think that is part of that growth evolution, right? Like, shit, maybe I should have stayed a little bit longer, but I'm here now. I'm going to make the best out of it and move. And I think that's, yeah, we all have those. I have those
Yeah,
too.
man.
I have those too. I wish I had, but I didn't. So,
What's can you share with me? Can you share one of those examples with me?
um, I turned down the sous chef job at Rio with Jean Louis.
You did. Now, can you we would have, who knows?
Yeah, that was my big, I had moved, I had been in Martha's Vineyard. I had just moved
Yeah.
back to San Francisco. I'd been in San Francisco for 2 weeks. I did an event with Jean-Louis in Napa, and he asked me to come on as his sous chef, and I said no. Tatiana was like, "Nope, can't do it. Not letting you do it. We just moved back to California. We're not moving to Vegas." And that's okay. Like it would have been I would have worked with Sam Mason because Sam was the pastry chef at the
Yeah.
Rio. We're friends to this day. I mean, we never even knew each other back then, but it was a different time when we learned
That's
those.
amazing, man. I never knew that. Thank you for sharing that with me.
those were those were the days, right? Like we all wanted to
Yeah.
grow fast, and but sometimes you make those decisions and they are end up being the better decisions because it makes you who you are today. Like you can't, I think those are important. I think it probably, everybody has those in life, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, look, it worked out. It worked out for both of us.
for
We're
all of
both all
us, we're
right.
fine.
We're
We're all
okay.
good.
Yeah. We're-
Well, so, Ogden's is there, the restaurant. What goes from that point on? Like, do you stay there? I mean, I know the restaurant is no longer there. Um, what was that next move? Did you,
Great story, man. You know, our the VP of food and beverage was a gentleman named Greg Waldron, and his nickname was the Walrus because he was just like a big, imposing guy. And he was a former chef, tough love, but he looked out for us. He was another like guardian angel, just an amazing guy. He recognized our talent. He also recognized that we were young and dumb. So he kept us on the right path and would call us out on our bullshit. But look, you got to understand, early 2000s, we got the keys to the castle. Literally, we win best new restaurant in America. We are riding high. And, you're in Las Vegas, so like the good thing was we were so dedicated and so professional when it came to the restaurant that it kept us, we never got off track. Like we had fun, but nothing ever, gambling was never a problem. Drugs and alcohol were never an issue. The focus was always the restaurant. It was like, we're dialed in. Did we have a lot of fun? Yes. Did we sometimes go too far? Yes, but never to the point of no return. So while at Bradley's, we had gotten in a little bit of trouble here and there. Like Pure Nightclub just opened up as we were opening, and Celine Dion had the residency at the Coliseum, and like our restaurant was really hot. And on Tuesday nights, we'd go out to the club, and then we would bring the party back to the restaurant, and some crazy shit would go down. And I get a call. It's like a Thursday afternoon, like it's 1 o'clock, maybe it's noon. And I answer the phone in the kitchen. I'm like, Bradley Ogden's kitchen. This is Adam. He goes, it's Greg Walsh. He goes, get down to my office right now.
oh,
I'm like,
geez.
oh, hang up. I'm like, oh God. And I'm thinking on like Tuesday night. So like, I go down to his office. I walk in and he's like, shut the door. I'm like, oh, I sit down. I'm like, hey, Greg. He goes, don't hate me. I'm like, what's happening? He goes, so what do you think about going to Paris? And I'm like, Paris hotel? I'm like, hells no, I don't want to go to Paris. So he goes, no, Paris, France, you moron. I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? He goes, I want you to, he goes, I'm making you the chef de cuisine of Restaurant Guy Savoy. He goes, I want to send you to Paris to work at Guy's restaurants for a year. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, I thought I was going to get fired. So anyway, he, Greg, put me forth to be the chef of Guy Savoy, Las Vegas. And, I was just, oh, talk about an honor. I'm just like, oh my God. So, I obviously, it's a no-brainer. I accept the position. They send me to France. I end up working through all of the restaurants in Paris and come back and open Restaurant Guy Savoy at Caesar's Palace. And I had the opportunity to build one of the greatest teams of all time. And then that was more magic, man. It was like I was only supposed to be in Vegas for a year. we were gonna open Bradley Huggins, and I was gonna go do something in Vancouver. Like, I don't know. But one year ends up turning into 8, and,
Wow.
obviously, we had great success at Guy Savoy, and then, things shit kinda hit the fan in Vegas, and it was time to kinda to hit the eject button, and, that's when I had developed a relationship with Michael Mina, Raj Parr, Patrick Hummel. The whole Mina group was really starting to develop. Michael had separated from Condi, and Aqua at Bellagio became Michael Mina, and then the Mina group was starting to really evolve and do amazing things. So Varley was the chef at Bourbon Steak in DC. He was getting promoted to take Anthony Caron's position as corporate chef. So Dave's like, "Look, man, come to DC. You need to be the chef of Bourbon Steak. It's a perfect fit for you. The Four Seasons, Vina Group, it's what you need." And he was exactly right. So I left Vegas, moved to Washington D.C., and that's when I started working with Mina Group. And it was exactly Dave is one of my best friends, and even though we came up together, we've always like guided each other. He's been an incredible mentor and guide to me, and he says vice versa, me to him, but I don't know if that's necessarily true, but we've always really looked out for each other, and he knew that that was the right spot for me. It was polishing. I needed to understand the Four Seasons mentality and their approach and how they take care of people, and just stop being such a prick. And honestly, I feel like that was my evolution I became a well-rounded chef at that point. I stopped being such an asshole.
It's interesting. I think you two are very interesting because you firmly believed in, and I say this way, like high tides raise all ships. You guys brought each other up. Never once did you push down on each other. When one went up, the other one went up too. And you always had each other's backs. And I think that to me has always been pretty fucking amazing because there's not a lot of that out there. You know that.
Yeah, I do, and man, I gotta tell you, Chris, I swear to God, like the relationships, my friends, my brothers, such a gift. And you need it in our world. It's like times get tough, and every time anything's ever been tough, my boys have had my back, and vice versa. So grateful.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's
yeah.
I think about it. You say Anthony Caron, that's when he branched off to open 900-degree pizza, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then
Yeah.
you got Fritz,
Yep.
and there's a
Sexy
whole
Fretzy. Yep.
call.
The whole gang.
I used to call him Armani.
I love that guy, man.
Great. And there's such great, it was such a powerful crew of people that came through that program with you, and that whole crew that you've worked with and over the years, but again, it goes back to like what I was saying. You and David always had high tides raise all ships. You always pushed each other up. And I think that that's really impressive and really rare in this business.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you recognizing that, because that's really the truth. And it's so fun when you look back. I'm kind of like a nostalgic. I don't know. I look to the future. Obviously, there's so much that we're going to do, and amazing projects ahead. But I cherish those times. Everything that we've been talking about, like such a such a gift. You know.
I mean, a lot of it is we we look back at these moments. Everybody has those opportunities to look back and say, wow, I really got to do some really fun, amazing things, right? It's like we feed people for a living. We give them taste memories. We have experiences with foods and flavors and cultures and things that don't normally aren't in everybody's everyday life. They take for granted, right? We don't take those things for granted because this is our career and this is our goals and what we want to do. But feeding people's powerful, right? And the way to get there is not always the easiest ladder to climb. There are a lot of broken steps on the way up the ladder. So
Yeah.
I think
Nope.
that's what makes it so special for all of us when we start to really look back at it in those moments like, man, that was really fucking hard, but this person pulled me up the ladder when I was stuck here, and this person pushed me up this extra step here. And I think that's what makes it really unique to have these relationships like you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know what I really love? I love the stories about, because look, when I got to San Francisco, you know, you were someone that was, I was really looked up to and was so impressed by your body of work and the history that you had in San Francisco and how you were really, an innovator, but you all, I mean, you worked with Tracy Desjardins, right? Didn't you?
Yeah,
So you were Tracy, you worked for Michael at some point.
yeah.
Were you at Aqua? Yeah, you were at
No,
Aqua.
I
Uh,
helped open Redwood.
oh, Redwood, that's right. So the whole
And
connection.
you know that I opened, um, uh,
I do know that. Yes, I
so
do.
yeah, so
Yes.
I started Aqua, did Nob Hill, then came back and did Redwood Park.
Yeah.
And then I went over. That's when I ended up getting to Encanto was after that. But
But that's what I love, that story is just and how we're connected that way. And I loved hearing the stories about, the amazing times in San Francisco. You were there at a mate from 1996, dude. You got there when like that was premium San Francisco and like an eruption of creativity and disruptive restaurants. And and obviously the uh the technological boom, you're right in the middle of it. Um so cool. I love to hear those old war stories, man.
there's some
Uh,
fun things that happen in this city. Like people forget about restaurants like Or Italia, which was Bruce Hill's Italian Asian restaurant, which was like well ahead of its curve for, what people now, hated the term fusion at the time. But you
yeah,
think about that and Elka Gilmore and all those people that were here, Tracy Desjardins, Elizabeth Faulkner was doing Citizen Cake. There was all this movement, all this big push. Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I came here and products that I saw for the first time. It was like very eye opening. It's a
amazing, man.
cool city to be in. Um,
Yeah.
so you're now with the Mina Group. What's that like? You were in Paris. You did Guy Savoy. You helped open that restaurant. I'm sure it was Hung working for you when you were at Guy Savoy.
Yeah, I had
He went on
Hong.
to win.
Yeah, one Top Chef. That's an interesting It's kind of an interesting story there. Top Chef was in San Francisco. I'm sorry, in Las Vegas doing interviews for Top Chef. I was working on a pilot for Food Network and it was a conflict of interest or something like that for Top Chef. And they were like, "Well, this doesn't look like you're not a candidate for the show. Is there anyone you know, that you would suggest we speak to?" I'm like, "Yes." And I'm like, "You got it," because I knew Hung would kill. Like, this guy's one of the most tech. First off, he's funny as hell. He's got great television. He's a great personality. Technically, he's one of the most sound chefs I've ever worked with. And like, I'm like, he'll win this damn thing. So like, I was like, Hung got to do this. And he went on and he fucking won. And it was like, yeah. Like, so anyway, but Hung, leaving Guy, those relationships and the team, the building the teams and the amazing people I got to work with, that kind of that continued in Washington at Bourbon Steak. Varley had a great foundation built, but then I was able to kind of, to grow that. And the combination of working for Mina Group with its organization, its SOPs, and its ability to do volume, but still have elegance, finesse, and be innovative, it was a really great combination. And I needed that personally. And we had great success. Um, I got to cook for President Barack Obama and the First Lady for their 20th wedding anniversary while I was there. We got I think we got a 3.5 star review from the Post, or 3 star review. We won Best Fine Dining Restaurant in Washington, D.C. at a steakhouse. Like crazy stuff was happening. And it was magical. And I was starting to get the itch. I loved DC and I was like, I want to do more in this town. And I was starting to think about maybe it was time for me to do my own thing. And I had a conversation with Michael and I let him know what my aspirations were. And he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He goes, "You're coming to San Francisco. I'm going to make you a partner at RN74." Jason Berthold was moving on from RN. and Michael made me a partner at RN74 and flew me to San Francisco, and that was it. He saw that, there was a he knew that I wasn't 100% ready. There was more for me to learn, and being in San Francisco, I would be on his hip and really, have that mentorship to be not just a chef, to have more of a business mind, and that's kinda what happened. Not kind of, that's what happened. Moved to San Francisco, and then, 14 years with Mina Group, is
That's a long time. That's a big commitment.
yeah, and it was magical, man, and that's kinda what happened. That's just, DC was like the catapult to really, to push me forward with Mina Group and really, help contribute to the incredible growth that that company experienced, in
How
that
many
time,
restaurants did you help Michael open?
30 plus.
It's a lot. That's a lot of projects. That's a lot of fucking restaurants, dude.
Yeah, that's bonk. Well, let's see. When I joined the company, I think Mina Group had 14 restaurants, and then we went to 50. It's
It's
more
a
than
lot.
30. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of, I mean, you get in a system, right? Some of them were bourbon steaks, right? So you
Sure.
you already had that. That was a plug system, right? You plug and played because you knew it. But then there was the new concepts, and it's like evolving. But having this SOPs, like you mentioned earlier, having the protocols, how to get everything, having the checklists, having this organizational structure allows that growth in a way that's not as it's the easiest way. You're not pulling your hair out as much, right? Because
Right.
the steps and plans of action. Whereas if you're doing it haphazardly, forget it. You're gonna spiral, and it's
Yeah,
more headache than worth.
you're right. And the wild thing about it is, look, you've opened many, many restaurants. You know how stressful it could be if you're not organized and you
Yeah.
don't have the system. So, like, from opening restaurants in casinos, this was pre Mina, and then going to see how seamless it is with when you have the infrastructure, the team,
Yep.
and a system. You're like, oh my God, Michael's them. This is why he is the man. Um, Being able to have consistency across the board, that's what I really learned. It was like it's about the people, which, that was never I knew that always that was always a part of the formula for to do great things. You need great people, obviously. But the systems and those disciplines and the communication, I had never experienced anything like that. I was like, duh. Like,
How have we done this in the past?
like a restaurant opening, look, it's a lot of work, but it should be enjoyable. And it, like, when we would do openings, it was not enjoyable. It was a nightmare. And it became very enjoyable with Mina Group. It became like, all right, this is gonna, we're gonna have to grind, but this is gonna be fun. And then when you get the place open and running, and then you get that first P&L, and it's either like, uh-oh, or we did it. We're on track to, because you come out of the gates. I'm a firm believer in sometimes it takes time for restaurants to catch on and find their success. But like if you're operating at a high level out of the gate and you start, from when you break ground to build the restaurant and then into opening and opening first months, it all tracks. You need to follow a path and have the disciplines. And those have been some of my favorite projects when and have been the best successes that I've been associated with.
So you've left the Mina Group, and you are on your own. You're doing consulting. You've just launched your new Pizza Crunch.
Yeah.
What is that like now, and how does that feel? Because you spent almost 15 years working with someone's, side by side and opening all these projects, and now you're doing consulting. You're doing quite a bit of television, and you have your new product out. How does that feel? And don't bullshit me. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
big change,
Oh,
right?
Chris, I'll never bullshit you. You know
I
that.
know,
But
but a lot of people candy code. They're like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. It's hard when you
it It certainly is. I mean, look, arguably, I think I've been on record saying this a few times. I arguably had the best chef job in the world, right? I get to work within an organization that has access and connections and relationships with the best of the best. Um, whether that's designers, hotel partners, casino partners, you name it. So taking this leap, getting to the edge of that diving board and like looking down and be like, all right, I knew that it was time for me to do this. But it was really hard and it was really scary. However, I had never been better prepared. And Michael and I talked about that. And it was like, look, no, Mina Group had a fiduciary commitment to run and go a certain direction with conceptually, and which I was all about. But at the same time, on a creative side, I needed to do the things that I really want to do and that are in my guts. So it wasn't necessarily a conflict. It was just time to be like, okay, I have, Michael's support and blessing. He's actually an investor in the new company. Um, it's scary. And then there's times when you're like, you go from working in an organization where you have 125 corporate team members to now it's me and my assistant, and you're on an island. And it's like, you have moments where it's scary, right?
Yeah.
But it's exciting. And honestly, no bullshit. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world because every day I'm waking up, I got a fire, well, a belly full of fire that like going going after the deals and launching the concepts that I've been working really hard on. When this all comes to fruition, I don't know if there will be anything more rewarding. So the consulting, the company's called Aether Group, Aether. And the Aether is the magic that surrounds us. And that's really essentially what I've always strived to do, is create that magic in the restaurants that people can't necessarily put their finger on, but they feel this certain way. Whether it's the music, the design, the food, how they're treated when they come into our restaurants. That's the Aether. And I've got a stable full of concepts that I'm really excited to bring to life. And now we're going. We're
The train
I
has
don't
left the station.
the train has left the station for sure, and we're going. And then simultaneously, people are like, "You're fucking crazy! You launched two companies at the same time." I'm like, "Yeah," knowing that because with the restaurants, it takes time to get deals done, and I saw the opportunity to get going on the CPG stuff that I had been working on for quite some time, Sobelini Pizza Crunch, and that's really taking off. So it's like, these two dreams are they're in motion. And now it's like, okay, talk is cheap. Now it's time to, it's time to go. So that's, there's nervousness, which we haven't really talked about that. You've done this. You have been doing this for a long time, and there's ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster. There are days where you're like, there's nerves, and then you have a week like last week, which I mentioned to you when we were speaking before we got on. Like, had a major week, and it's like, oh my god, this is all happening. That the chips are starting to, the first domino is gonna fall, and then it's like, oh
Hold your
my god,
breath
then
and
what do we?
wait.
Yeah.
That's part of the
So
game, right? It's like
yeah.
it's if you weren't nervous, you'd be crazy, right? Because you're nervous because you care and you want to succeed. And I think but you don't ever win if you don't take a chance,
Exactly, man, and that's
right?
the
And
thing, it's like, I'm going for it. It's look, worst case scenario, I'm gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, if things don't, for some reason, I can't, bring this dream to complete fruition, you know, I can go make pasta somewhere in Sardinia, and, I'll find a job. I'll be okay. I'm gonna be alright, man.
what is your thought on social media and the restaurant industry?
It's a gift and a curse. Um, I think the good outweighs the bad. From a it it's changed our lives as far as giving us a platform to promote and amplify what we do as chefs, which is incredible. And it draws attention to your restaurants and your projects and what you're passionate about. It also gives a platform for everyone to just, oh, the criticism you have to be, if you have that platform and you're amplifying what you're doing, you have to be prepared for what comes along with that, which is open criticism, and you open yourself up to the public, right? Which is a good and a bad thing. Um, from a professional side of things, with like young cooks that are coming up with social media, there's a lot of copycat, um, immediate gratification issues that I have with it, where people are seeing or copying food that they see on social media and actually not putting in the work to develop the technique and the foundation to actually execute it soulfully and authentically. That's the negative to the social media side of things with restaurants and food. So it's like, you hope that people understand that the 10,000 hour mantra, that's real. Like, in order to be really great at something, you can't just copy off of Instagram or what you see on TikTok or a technique. You have to actually do it to be a true master. I like to see the positive side of it. Um, but we're susceptible. You open yourself up to all the things that, if you don't conduct yourself professionally, or um, people have shitty experiences in your restaurants, be prepared to deal with the repercussions on social. I mean,
Yeah,
that's life, man. So
that's it. We've opened
yeah,
ourselves up.
yeah.
What has
So
been
I
your
guess that's
No, go ahead.
sorry.
Sorry.
No, I'm like, that's just like, that's the gift and the curse. So
I agree. I think it's a powerful medium that can be a benefit. It allowed us to timestamp when it first came out. It allowed us to timestamp our food and allowed us to really have access without having the overlord medias telling us who was good and who wasn't. It allowed the world to kind of see what you were doing, right? And it gave us a free connectivity to people all cooking all over the world. You started finding new folks, but yes, there is the downside. There's a million um, anonymous folks who have the ability to really power down on your day and make it really uncomfortable. I think
yeah,
is the
that yeah, yeah, that could but yeah, overall, we're
it's
in
a
a
good
better
thing.
po yeah, it's a good thing. We're in a better
Yeah,
place because of it. And look, to be able to, I don't have a massive following on social, but it's really cool to be able to tell my story and have it chronologically,
yeah.
locked in. It's really cool, and I'm grateful for that.
What has been your worst professional mistake?
I've had a couple of doozies. This is a good story. You ready for a quick story?
Sure.
Something I regret was when I did, after, there was a time I was, back in New York before I moved to California, actually. And, I went to work at Cafe Boulud with Andrew Carmelini. And, I quit because I didn't have any money to get into the city. I had, like, my mom and dad were away on vacation. I don't know, I don't even know how old I was. I was a kid. I had no gas to drive into the city, and I had no ability to pay for parking. So, like, I'm like, I can't I probably could have gotten in, but I was like, I I'm not gonna be able to make it. So I had to call and tell Chef that I'm not gonna be able to make it in to work. And I spoke to Zach Bell, he was the sous chef, and I'm like, "Zach," he goes, "You need to talk to Chef." I'm like, "Oh god." And Carmelini rips me a new asshole on the phone, and I'm just like, and then after that, I didn't appreciate how I was spoken to, and I never went in, but I really regret that. That was one of my biggest mistakes, and, I wish that I didn't handle it that way. That was as a young, dumb line cook. And then, another one was, after Dix Savoie, I, um, I had the opportunity to really do anything I wanted, because of the prestige of that restaurant, its success, and like the clout that came along with it, which was, I was really, really blessed to have that opportunity. I decided to, instead of like maybe move to New York, or I think Daniel Hum was gonna take over 11 Madison, maybe, maybe call Chef Hum and see if I can go work with him, or like see where that might take me, or go work for, whatever, maybe move to New York and take a position. I decided to work with Pure Management Group and double up my salary and work for a a nightlife organization that was going to do restaurants. So I chose chicks and a big paycheck instead of like, uh,
Wow. What has been your
so
most memorable meal? That's a funny one, dude. What's been your most memorable meal?
I have I have two that really stand out. One, my best friend Gerald Chin, I helped him train for the New York Restaurant Show at the Javits Center, and he was competing in the duck competition, and he won. He won. He did a duck, like a roasted duck with white truffles, like a pumpkin that was stuffed with like a white truffle custard. Anyway, he wins the Javits. He wins a gold medal at the ACF show at the Javits Convention Center, and he took me as a thank you. He took me and his dad to dinner at Restaurant Danielle on 65th Street, and blew all of his winnings on dinner for us. And, like,
That's
honestly,
amazing.
that dinner, and it was, like, in the middle of the winter, it was, like, the first time having, like, real white truffle, and, like, I remember each course, distinctly. And then another experience that really, really changed my life was, El Bulli in 2005, and it was right, it I don't remember when El Bulli closed, but that experience in Rosas, Spain, was something that I didn't I don't really cook molecularly. That wasn't really ever my style, but that experience blew my mind and changed so much of, the way I looked at food and service. So,
That's
yeah.
two totally different ends of the spectrum, which is
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
amazing,
Big time.
right?
Yeah.
Of styles
Yeah.
of cooking. I mean, experience level, execution, but very different styles of cooking. It's so amazing. What
Yeah.
won't you eat? I know there's something you won't eat.
Oh. Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question to me. I have straight up fucking kryptonite for me is like a deviled egg. So, like, I hate hard boiled eggs, deviled eggs, egg salad. If you were
Really?
like, oh my God, I'm getting nauseous. Dude, it's literally my kryptonite. If you were like, all right, Adam, you have to eat 6 deviled eggs for $1 million without throwing up, no chance.
I love it. That's hysterical.
No
Wow.
chance in hell. Yeah.
If you could sit down and have dinner with anyone, with us or gone, who would it be?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, my grandfather, Eddie, he died when I was young, 5 years old. And I really would love to just catch him up on all the stuff that's happened in the last he died in 1985, and it's 40 years ago, 41 years ago. That would be one, like, a family member I'd really love to be able to share with him because he loved food. He was he was Sicilian from Palermo and loved food. Like, my grandmother cooked for him, like, he really enjoyed her cooking. But then, like, maybe a celebrity or chef, I'd love to sit with Jean-Louis, you know, and have dinner with Jean-Louis and, watch him smoke cigarettes at the table, his gravelly voice.
It's
I would
priceless, I'll
really
tell you. Those
I
moments are priceless.
I got to cook for him a couple of times, but I never had one-on-one time, and, 'cause him 'cause Seeger and Jean-Louis were best friends. So when Jean-Louis was sick, he was kinda doing, making his rounds. He brought his whole team to Seeger's, and we got to cook for them. But his mind and, the way that he cooked, and the way that he was such an awesome dude, you know? like a chef's chef. Jean-Louis would be the guy.
Just the stories and yeah, it would be amazing. That's a great one. Um, what has been your biggest culinary flop?
I had a, well, look, I guess closing restaurants is a flop, right? So,
I'm talking dish though, like
oh, oh,
that dish that you thought was so perfect
oh,
that the guest
oh.
never got. We've all had them.
I did this like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it was a flop. I had this obsession of doing like a stuffed matzo ball, and like I wanted to create like do a chicken dish, but doing like I stuffed a matzo ball with like chicken confit, and then did this like poached chicken breast with like celery noodle. It was such a stupid dish. The matzo ball itself was a great component, but the rest of the dish was a fucking flop. And like I thought it was so genius, and like everyone's just like me, you know?
We all have them, and I think that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's like recognizing it and moving it on and pulling elements from things that don't work that did work and evolving them into something else later on. I think
yeah,
that's a show of growth as a chef, right? Self-editing, learning from your mistakes. Whereas if you just leave it there and you have a dying entity on your menu, like that's just bad, bad.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
happens.
that's probably the one where I thought was I was so proud of my brilliance. It was so ego driven. But look, it did, you know, the confit stuffed matzo ball ended up making its way back. But it's not, that dish is never meant to be eaten it's not a fine dining dish, you know. It's a very humble, you know. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah. I think I have a picture. I'm going to text you the picture of that dish actually. I
Oh
think I do.
gosh. Do you have a favorite cookbook?
Jean-Louis Paladin. And then, you know, Cooking with the Seasons is one of my all-time favorites. I love Culinary Artistry by Andrew Dornberg. Becoming a Chef, both those books. That anyone that asks me what, you know, what is a book that I need to have, whether you're a home cook or someone that's coming up in the industry, those 3, I think, are essential because you get this look, Becoming a Chef paints the story and tells you what you need to do to get there. Then Culinary Artistry gives you the groundwork, okay, seasonal cooking, technique, so on and so forth. And then you get to see Cooking with the Seasons by Jean-Louis Paladin, which is the life's work of a master, you know?
Yeah, Karen Page and Andrew Donenberg really set the tone when they started off with Becoming a Chef. Yeah, that book was a game changer. It really was.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
changed so many people. I feel fortunate enough that when I was working for Mark Miller at Red Sage, I got to read that book when it was still in a 3-ring binder with Mark Miller's n little chits all in it and his notes.
Yeah, he was all over that book. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he was, and that was a game changer. I've got to see them a couple of years ago. I hadn't seen them in years, and they're such amazing people, and they really opened up a lot of folks' eyes to the work, um, on how hard people work to get where they were in the day.
yeah.
Um, favorite kitchen tool, must have for everyone.
I have like a palette knife that I use as like a spatula. It's always been a part of my repertoire. Like I don't take, like when I do TOC, I don't take it on TV with me because but I think I'm gonna start because it's like, why not? I mean, but my palette knife, it's about an 8-inch palette knife that, you know, you can keep it on your waistband on your apron. It's kind of like my swashbuckling you know, tool. But I
It's
love that
that's
thing, man.
sounds
Yeah.
like it's perfect for everything, right? Pulling fish out of the pan, moving meats, awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have one piece of advice for a young cook, what would that be?
Practice your patience and document the ride, you know, like the experience. It's something I did it on and off. I have memoirs and stuff like that, but I wish I did a better job of documenting the ride through life, you know.
Do you read your reviews or do you not read your reviews?
Feedback is breakfast of champions, man. So it's like, you know, I do read them. Yeah. I don't go I made the mistake of going into the Reddit, forum once and just I saw so I clicked on something and went down the rabbit hole. Holy shit, man, people are brutal. So I'll never do that again. I won't read any of that stuff from like TV feedback. But like restaurant stuff, if it's to help the guest experience or improve upon what we're doing, 1,000,000%. But there are a lot of haters out there, Chris. Holy
Yeah.
shit, man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, there
Oh
are.
my God.
There
People
always
are
will
fuck
be too. They're
people
mean.
are mean. Holy smokes.
It's always the
So,
ones who would never think of putting themselves out there that have a million things to say too, right?
yeah.
And they're always anonymous. It's not the ones that'll have the sand to actually say something to your face. It's always the ones who are anonymous and want to hide that'll have plenty of things to say on these platforms. I mean, if you can't put your name next to it, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food city?
Favorite food city? This is hot off the press. My new favorite food city is Osaka, Japan. Uh, Shota, Jess and I, we went, and literally, I cannot wait to get back, man. Shota-san showed me the way.
Amazing.
Yeah,
What's the most important thing when you're hiring a new cook? What you look for in a cook when you're hiring one?
I've got like a small checklist. Not too crazy. Are you dependable? Dependability, honest? Are you trustworthy? Do you want to work hard? And then, dexterity is kind of important in the kitchen. So, like, can you move? It's like, do you need to be a world class athlete? No, but can you dance? And then lastly, do you love food? Those are like my 5 questions. It's like, and I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. If you check those boxes, you're hired with me. That's it.
What makes you happy as a chef?
So, the greatest joy of my life is getting to create that magic in a restaurant where it's like you put it all together and then you see people really enjoying the brainchild. Not this isn't ego driven. It's more of like, okay, I have a feeling of what I really love about a restaurant. If I'm able to create that ambiance with food, design, music, and service, and then see people really enjoy it and bring joy to others, that's my greatest. That's the most important thing to me.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah,
Coffee or tea?
coffee,
Pancakes or waffles?
pancakes,
Oatmeal, yogurt,
oatmeal,
bacon, sausage.
sausage patty or link.
I don't know, man. This is all about you, not me.
Sausage,
Chicken or duck?
duck,
Beef or pork?
pork,
Quail or squab?
squab,
Hot dog, hamburger?
God, hamburger,
Ketchup, mustard?
mustard,
French fries, onion rings?
fries,
Taco, burrito?
taco,
Pasta, noodles?
pasta,
Ravioli, dumplings?
dumplings,
Raw oysters, raw clams? Lobster or crab?
crab,
Sea urchin, caviar?
caviar,
Black or white truffles?
black truffle,
Meatballs or sausage?
meatball,
Favorite pizza style?
grandma style.
Butter or olive oil?
Shit, man. Olive oil,
Duck fat, pork fat?
duck fat.
Favorite acid to cook with?
25-year-old balsamic. No, not to cook with.
Just to
favorite
use.
acid,
What's your favorite to work with?
PX sherry vinegar.
Red wine or white wine?
White,
Light beer, dark beer?
light,
White spirits, dark spirits?
both.
Favorite sparkling?
Champagne.
Are you dessert or a cheese guy?
Oof. I'm a dessert.
Do you
I
prefer
love cheese.
Do you prefer chocolate or fruit?
A fruit.
Honey or maple syrup?
Maple syrup.
Favorite candy?
Candy guy. But I like licorice, not black licorice, but like the hell are they called?
Like the licorice sticks, the great red licorice?
Yeah, I like those, yeah.
Favorite fast food?
Five Guys.
Late night snack?
I have been known to microwave White Castle frozen burgers or
Guilty.
Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream is like, and Cherry Garcia. Cherry Garcia is number one. Haagen-Dazs is two, but I love ice cream.
And what would be your last meal?
Last meal, it would be a three-courser, and it would start with, I'd start breakfast with a pastrami sandwich from Katz and, like, potato pancakes, and then mid-course would be some sort of pasta from Amerigo in Emilia Romagna, well, in the Bologna area, and then dessert would be anything from, Chef Kamel, who's one of the best pastry chefs in the world. So that would be my 3. Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
tough. Yeah.
It's hard, right? You think about it, you're like, what are
Fuck,
those
man.
things?
There's so much delicious, and it's like the thing that got me, the cheese and dessert, like a great cheese cart. I don't even know who has a great cheese cart anymore, but when you do come across one, like, sheesh,
Those
special,
are
man.
pretty special. So if people want to find you on social media, what's the best way for them to find you?
A Sobel is my Instagram handle, and then we've got, Sobelini.com if you wanna pick up some Pizza Crunch. That's direct to consumer right now until we are live with some retailers, which will be happening in the next couple of weeks. Um, and then, I think that covers me, you know?
There you go, folks. There you have it. Make sure you get some Sobelini Pizza Crunch. It's fucking delicious. I will tell you, I have it and I like it, and I've tried it on pizza and a bunch of other fun things. So,
Thank you. Hey,
congrats
thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you for your support with that, Chris. Seriously,
Oh,
man.
happy to, man. Look, if it's delicious, it's delicious. That's what it boils down to. You don't put your name on you don't say anything's delicious if it ain't delicious. It's delicious. Thank you so much for taking time to join me on How the Sausage is Made. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Adam.
Thank you, my brother. Keep on rocking. You're the best.
Thanks for listening to How the Sausage is Made. If you've liked what you've heard today, please make sure to like and subscribe, and don't be afraid to tell your friends about it.